And
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Foreign Takes. It's a duo today. Who's with me?
KG,
KG here.
yep,
Probably coming off that Ruben Amorim high.
the
But
Amorim high.
we're missing the YT. He's out there. He's crying about Arsenal fumbling away the league. The 1 year City actually loses some games. So let's see if he'll gather up the courage to rejoin us next week. But what do we have on the docket today?
On the docket today is the Premier League review, a review of some of the mishaps of the Champions League results, and then maybe a prediction of what we can expect midweek.
Well, the big game this week was Liverpool versus Manchester City. Liverpool won 2-0, dominated the game, should have been up more. And Liverpool are coming off an amazing week of results, beating Real Madrid 2-0 in the midweek. And now City, it's looking like they are to lose, isn't it?
It is. It is. It really looks like it's Liverpool's to lose. And hats off to Slot and how he started. I've seen a lot of reels and content and articles about how it was supposed to be a difficult period for Liverpool with Leverkusen, Madrid, who else? Someone in the league that was supposed to be a
Aston
challenge.
Villa,
Aston
Arsenal.
Villa. But we'll talk about Aston Villa later when their mishaps versus Chelsea. But Arsenal didn't put up a fight. Although our friend YT will, with foam in his mouth, probably say that Arsenal still has a chance in the league. I think they're far behind City. That's in my humble opinion. But Liverpool did an amazing job. Amazingly put down City. As a United fan, it's not an ideal candidate, but I just love seeing Pep rattled and completely outplayed out of the park. His this geniusness, that fakely veiled geniusness with
Yep.
playing Mateus Nunes and all that didn't pay off. So how did you feel about the game?
Yeah, so, just overall, like a big comment about the season. It is crazy that Liverpool are in the position they are. I think even the most fervent Liverpool supporter would not have said that they would be first in the league, first in the Champions League, and with such a huge advantage. Basically, Liverpool has the biggest advantage any team has had at this stage of the season.
Yep,
So,
that's true.
and it is so nice that they look defensively so solid.
Yep,
Very rarely during Klopp years you'd feel they were defensively so solid. And both the Real Madrid game and City game, it was clear that while there were still some chances, and Liverpool probably should have scored more, it was clear that Liverpool were way ahead of opposition in both of these games. So, if you feel good, you feel good. It's crazy that City collapsed the way they did.
yep,
We talked about, oh, well, Rodri is injured. That's their mainstay, probably the most important player on the team. So definitely they will lose the points. But no one could have predicted that they'll have like 5 losses in a row.
yeah.
And well, if you ask me, this is where Guardiola should shine. Or
Yeah, but he can't. But he
he
can't.
can't, yeah. But if you want to, turn doubters into believers, here, do something without your Ballon d'Or winning player. Okay?
It's crazy that he probably had like a Ballon d'Or, apart from Bayern, probably. He had a Ballon d'Or winning player in each of his teams. Like
Well, and in the
Barcelona.
Bayern, it's like, okay, he would have someone who would be just on second place or third place,
Yeah.
Lewandowski, because
Ribery.
or Ribery,
Robin.
because Messi and Ronaldo are still winning Ballon d'Or every year.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
but it's just, I don't know. Before we kind of tackle Pep and his antics, do you think that Liverpool will drop points or will have some difficulties? Or do you think it's pretty much going to be that it's going to be a 5 point, 4 point type of difference towards the end of the league? And who do you see as a Liverpool fan, your main competitor? Because you can't go and say that we won the league, it's done and dusted in November. I think you'll be more comfortable saying that in January. but who's the
Hmm.
threat?
I do think Liverpool will lose some points at a certain point in the season. Remember when they lost? Who did they lose at home to? Was it Crystal Palace?
Southampton? No,
No,
no, no, it's a. It was no, it was Forest. Forest,
for
wasn't it?
Forest. Yeah, Forest.
Yeah,
Randomly, they lost to
yeah,
non. So it can happen, especially when the schedule picks up. Uh, I think they could probably even draw with Newcastle in a midweek
yeah.
because they had to
I
play a
think
lot
so
of
too.
games. I do see probably Arsenal as
Yeah,
the bigger because City are very behind. They're now, I believe,
11 points.
full 11 points behind Liverpool.
Yeah,
And even if they go on one of the other runs, it's they basically have to win every game to make up such a difference, and Liverpool have to kind of collapse.
true.
So at this point, really only Arsenal is within a touching distance. Chelsea has been doing great, but they're not there yet. They're gonna have some
Yeah,
weird games. So let's see if Arsenal will go on a run now that they have their beloved Odegaard back, without whom apparently they couldn't play a game.
uh,
So, but I think you have to accept that it is barring some major injury, it's Liverpool's year.
true, true. I think it looks like it right now, but you never want to call the league that early. But we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what happens. But in last question to summarize Liverpool, then we can go in and clown Pep. I would want to know: do you think this is kind of a last rodeo of the major bunch of players? Do you think that's how maybe Salah got that motivation in those players? Van Dijk may leave. I don't know if he signed a contract yet. Salah obviously is debating it, and he had a comment today after the
Yeah.
game. Trent is out. Do you think it's their like the last dance that Klopp wanted to do, but
No,
failed continuation of it?
not in a way you described. I do think there's a very real chance that none of the Van Dijk, Trent, Salah resign,
Hmm.
which is gonna be a huge. Look, this team is winning in spite of the transfer committee and the owners and all the shit show that they do during the transfer
Yeah.
window, not because. So while that will be terrible, I don't think they approach it as a last chance saloon. It's just because, at least for Van Dijk and Salah, I don't see them being like, "Oh, this is our last year, so I'm gonna give us extra 10%." I don't think they will be giving less in other years. It is a last chance saloon in the terms of, I think this is the probably last or maybe the one of the last 2 years where their form will be good enough to be the leaders of the team.
Yeah.
So Salah probably for next year he can also be really good, but then he won't be such driving force. With that being said, I think it's crazy that they haven't re-signed him
Yeah.
because he clearly still has a lot to offer, and you're gonna save, like, taking into account that you have to spend so much money on his replacement and let him go for free. You're not gonna be saving any money.
I agree, but what I felt out of this game was that Salah was not he was not the differentiating factor against the City, albeit City was
Oh, come
not
on!
their best.
The first goal, that's the kind of pass only he can produce in this
I
team.
still it's not it's only the pass that he can produce. I agree, and I think I'm not saying that they shouldn't resign him. I think if the option is there, they should definitely resign him. But I think the drop off is not going to be as vast as, let's say, if Rodri is out of the City team. I think Liverpool's still going to be deadly out of the counter attack. Maybe they're not going to be able to compete or be close to the league. Yeah, they'll need a signing, but it's not going to be a drop off like going 5 places down without Salah. I think they're still going to be in the top four contention without Salah in the team. That being said, I think they need to, there's a no brainer they need to
Hmm.
resign Salah. It's in my opinion. If I was in that position, I would resign that player. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about let's talk about the man who raised 6 fingers to the chant of "You're getting sacked in the morning." Pep Guardiola. I think he is out of his depth, and then it's the first time it's clearly evident to everyone. I think he was out of his depths in his time in Bayern Munich, but nobody remembers it because it was just 2 years and he didn't. He hid away behind that mask of winning the league and he bailed. But I think this is a clear, evident. Everyone's watching, everyone's seeing it. He doesn't know what to do. He's scrambling. He's scratching his nose. He's gone.
Yeah. Well, so first, a drop off is expected when you have a team who won a treble and then won like four in a row. You can't just keep going forever. But it is crazy how much this drop off has occurred, and where you see this, what do you say, out of his depth, is how he sets up team now. Like
Yeah.
Matheus Nunes on the flank. It's like when you're playing FIFA and you keep
Yep.
losing to a hard opposition, so you're just trying weird stuff to see if something will work.
Yeah.
That's I don't think I don't know. Maybe he obviously has some thought behind these new formations, but from the outside, it's looking like he's scrambling and just trying to put something together, and just nothing works.
The thing is, he always does it. If you remember the final that they lost to Chelsea, he
Yeah,
removed Rodri, and he does that cooking stuff, trying to think
yeah,
of new ways of playing, which is his. He's feeding on to this idea that he's a genius and he needs to always innovate.
yeah,
But like Mateus Nunes is barely even a like top team player. I don't want to name C level player, but a
yeah.
top team player. He's obviously not a sub for Rodri. He's a third tier choice. And the thing is that all the subs like they only miss Rodri. KDB's not up to match, but supposedly Foden, who's this English young player of the future, talent star, is going to win them the World Cup, and he's not able to step up. Grealish is a 100 million player who sits on the bench, comes out, and doesn't do anything. Doku came on, was a bit okay. So there's going forward. There's not enough power, which is the problem for City. I think they're too mechanical, they're too worn down, they play the same thing. There's no creativity, there's no spark, and it's partially down to Pep. I don't think he doesn't have the answers to them. I think the answer that would a great manager would do, like a Klopp, like a Wenger, like a Sir Alex Ferguson, they would let loose their players from the chains of tactics. That's
Hmm.
what they would do immediately. They would tell them, go on and enjoy yourself. They would play with two midfielders in that central pivot role to have that defensive backup, or play a lower line, but then let Grealish loose, let Foden loose, so they create and be productive, and let Haaland play with the ball more. I think he's just screwing the screws more and making it more tight, and it's not working, and he doesn't know how to solve it any other way. That's how it
Hmm.
looks like from the outside.
Exactly. It's crazy that the rest of the players have dropped off so much. Like, Haaland is not on top of his game, even though at the start of the season he was pretty good. We haven't seen anything from Bernardo's this year.
Yeah.
KDB basically a ghost, barely in there. But I agree with what you're saying. He has not improved anyone else.
Yep.
For example, Grealish came in clutch in the treble season at the end, and then he just disappeared. Doku last year came in. It was clear that he had pace and was able to get past his man, but he did not have a end product. He was very bad at final decision making. Still the same player he was last year. Same with who's the
Savinho.
Savinho, yeah. Well, Savinho is new, so let's give him time.
He hasn't scored a
But
single goal in the
Matheus
Premier League.
Nunes has a year and a half to bet in. So he either gets someone who immediately fits in as a great player, or he just same story as when he was buying $60 million defenders every
Yeah,
transfer window for like
until
three
it's
years
stuck.
straight
Mm.
until he got his until it stuck and until he got whoever kind of
He didn't
worked
even
out.
solve the left back problem, right?
Yeah,
He used up a great potential center back of the world
yeah,
game as a left back, and now he's not even a proper center back.
yeah,
I don't think that the only way that the City I can see potential in this race, or finishing second, or even third, judging by the way Chelsea's playing, and potentially maybe someone else is coming up, maybe United at the top four spot. now since City's not guaranteed, if you look at the league, is by spending more money. But the question is who you're going to get. Like, are you going to get another striker to sub off with Haaland? Do you need another winger? Do you need another playmaker? Do you need Wirtz from Leverkusen right now? Or do you need a CDM before Rodri comes back? You don't even know how Rodri's going to be back. I genuinely think that Guardiola signing a 2 year contract was the wrong thing from the start. He never built a team, in my opinion. People would argue that he built the greatest Barcelona ever. I think there was a lot of talent in that youth team that went out and he built it from there. But he never actually went in and bought players with a minimal budget and built it out.
Hmm.
And I think that's what City would need, especially with the 115 Chargers. They can't go spending 150,
Well,
100.
we don't know what's happening there, right? I think him
Yeah.
resigning the contract was more of a PR stunt of, hey, things are going fine, and
Yeah.
maybe he has some sort of clause in the contract which would allow him to bail. In a super unlikely case that City get anything but the slap on the wrist. So
I think that's gonna happen
yeah.
though, but I don't know. The CDR in shambles, and I don't expect them to recover. But Pep Guardiola, you truly are drowning, and that six, like that's Mourinho level.
No, he's such a bad loser though.
Yeah,
He
he
gets
is.
very he has a very high ego and he can't
Yep.
deal with it.
I think most
So
of the managers are like
yeah,
that. If I'm being honest, Klopp was like that. Fergie was like that. Wenger was like that.
yeah,
Mourinho were like that. All of the great managers are. It's just Pep Guardiola. The reason why we're angry with Pep Guardiola, and I'm gonna say it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is because he's such a darling of the media
yes,
that that he's this genius. That when Tuchel is invited to be the English manager, it's like, why is this German managing the national squad? But if it's Pep, oh, he's gonna revolutionize the way England. Like he's just such a darling of everyone, and he can't do anything wrong. Whereas he has an ego and he's a piece of shit, just like any other manager with an ego. So it's just the character and the way he's painted. But happy to see him struggle. Happy to see them gone. And congrats to Liverpool. Then the next month of games are gonna quite be thick and fast. And we'll see what the difference is at the top at the end. Quickly moving on to my team, United versus Everton 4-0. Not much to say. I think Amorim, one takeaway is that Amorim is trying out each possible scenario, and I quite like that.
mm-hmm.
He's not, he hasn't selected the same 11. It's quite fresh, I would say, compared to what Ten Hag was. Ten Hag would buy a player and he would just put him on the bench and be like, oh, he's not ready yet. Whereas Amorim is actually trying it out, giving everyone a chance. Xerxes scored a brace. Rashford scored a brace. Yeah, it looks fluid. Everton are in big trouble.
Yeah,
Uh, I don't think Everton can stay up. They have a good, like Ipswich are really pushing the needle. They're playing really well. So I think that Everton is going to be battling towards the end of the season there. I haven't seen a single moment of quality apart from that Carvin Lewin kick at the end there, header at the end there. But yeah, overall satisfied. Looking forward to the game versus Arsenal. I think he's going to pick the strongest 11 now because he rotated with the Europa League game and this game. Always good to see. We'll see what the game against Arsenal is going to be his first test. And I
yeah,
think United are going to be up par with that. That's pretty much all.
yeah. Nothing to really add. It was refreshing to see Xerxes score.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like he was a bit of a forgotten man after a very promising start. Uh, but it was clear that Ten Hag should have not even stayed this summer. He was
Yeah.
tired. There was no energy around him. So the change was needed. I don't know if Amorim's gonna be that. It's too early to tell. And honestly, beating Everton isn't really a good measuring stick. So the midweek game's gonna be super interesting.
Yeah. We'll see what's gonna happen in midweek. I think that's the first
You
real
think the
test.
top four is within reach?
Well, United has 19 points. City has 23 and they're fifth. Brighton in fourth is 20. It's only a 4 points difference right now.
Mm-hmm.
And United still has to play City, which is not doing quite well. And Um, I think at the end of January, if they continue, because right now since Ten Hag got fired, hasn't lost
Yeah.
a game. So I think if they continue in that manner, obviously there's going to be maybe one or two losses, but if they continue winning and have those two losses, it's going to be closer than what people think.
Hmm.
What a difference a month makes. So I think they're going to be in it. Is just whether this for they can continue it. The consistency is the key here.
Hmm.
I think Amorim has it. I think he restored a lot of things, but in the long term, whether these players are going to be the right answer or no, only time will tell. I think some of them have to go mid-season. Uh, just as a separate story, I think with Rashford, it's clearly evident that I would sell him if I was Amorim,
Hmm.
just because it's the same story all over again. New manager comes in, he's inspired, he plays where he starts scoring. He already scores 4 goals or three
Yeah.
goals. Then something happens. He hits a stumbling block. He falls out of favor. He stops playing. Manager gets up. It's happened versus with Mourinho, with Ole, with Van Gaal, and now it's Amorim. I don't believe in that revitalization of Rashford, and people are praising his and singing his songs, especially with the first goal that was a deflection and it was given to Rashford just because. In reality, it was an own goal. But it's just my takeaways. And the last thing I think I wanted to cover from the Premier League would be Chelsea versus Aston Villa, the game.
Hmm.
Your thoughts so far? I didn't. I caught the goals, but I didn't catch the full game. But what are your feelings on Aston Villa and Chelsea? Do you think Chelsea's a prime candidate now for top four?
Yes. I think Chelsea will make top four. I don't think it will be as clear cut as it's currently, because currently they're sitting level on points with Arsenal,
Yeah,
so they're kind of in a title race in brackets. So they'll probably lose a couple more games. They're not ready, but it's been enough games in a season where you can say that they're gonna get there. They're gonna get enough points, and they feel good. They look better than last year. I do still think they have a lot of cleaning up to do,
yep,
and if they do purchase anyone, it has to be very strategic.
yeah,
At most, like one or two super high quality players, maybe a goalkeeper, and maybe get rid of your other seven goalkeepers that you have.
they do have seven.
But
Yeah,
um, it is really driven still a lot by Cole Palmer. Like he made the
yeah,
assist for the first goal, he scored the third one. So I do still think overall as a team can be improved, because it's
yep,
very much, if one or two players don't play, you don't really know who will step up.
yeah.
So right now it
Uh,
really hinges on that Nico Jackson Cole Palmer partnership.
Madueke as well on the right.
Madueke, yeah.
I think it's all also they also have a new manager bounce, and I think once they get figured out, the results are going to pour in differently, and
Mm-hmm.
the chemistry will change. But they are overperforming from what I expected from them and what we said about them. So we have to give credit where credit is due. I wanted to quickly talk about Aston Villa, and I did mention in our chat to YT, who's not present with us, but his call, I think, on Aston Villa was spot on. He said that they're going to go far in the Champions League at the beginning of the season. This is what he said, but they're going to struggle in the league. And this is exactly what's happening. I would not expect Villa to easily roll over to Chelsea, to this Chelsea side. I think they would give them at least a fair game. It really looked like Chelsea didn't have any problem going over against them. I think Villa's this Duran substitution died off throughout the league. Like it's no
Yeah.
longer difference maker. I don't know. What do you feel like? My bold prediction is that they're going to go far in Champions League, crash out. So since there's no Europa League to win, Emery's going to be without a title. They're not going to make it into Europe potentially, and Emery may go at the beginning of next season. That's my prediction for them.
So they do feel like they burnt out a little bit,
Yep.
and I think we've seen this story before, where like a smaller team does way above expectations, keeps going, but they sold Douglas Luiz to Juventus. Um,
Yep.
I don't think any of the additions have been like super stellar so far.
Oh.
When
Yeah,
John
and
Durant does pretty good job coming off the bench, but nothing crazy. So I don't think they'll make top four. That's definitely out. And I agree, they probably will make. They're gonna make the playoffs, and depending on the seeding there, they might do one round of playoffs or they just crash out
yeah,
if they draw like a big team. And
yeah,
there's a good chance they might draw someone like Real or
yeah. But
City
I
because
think
they're yeah.
they may show up against Real or City. I think Real and
No,
City.
I don't just don't think they have it. And now everyone's just approaching them very seriously.
Yeah, I think
So
in the league it's two. It's a big difference maker.
yeah,
The other ones are pushing. This is my point. Quickly to talk about Arsenal. That YT's not here, but
yeah,
it's his team. I think the reason why Arsenal has it a little bit easy is because people don't see them as a serious threat. That's my opinion. I think nobody really thinks that they can win the league, not even other teams. And they get it a bit easier with smaller teams, and they sometimes can get over a result because they're too defensive. But with the West Ham game, the defending was so poor. Like Wan-Bissaka scored a goal against them. I know they let loose and they conceded two. And I think the only area of concern for Arsenal right now, they're slow. They're slow. They're in there, but nobody sees them yet because of their bad start. I think they will it will pick up, but they're gonna find it harder to play against teams now going forward.
yeah,
Because when they let loose, they concede stupid goals. They did score five. That's amazing, but as you have been talking, like Havertz is not going to be scoring you two or three goals every game. If
yeah.
it's not West Ham who's struggling, and they would need to be playing more creative because defensively 1-0 doesn't work anymore. They're going to struggle a bit. That's my opinion on Arsenal.
Yeah, for me, it looks they're like very well set up for attack. If the game goes in their favor, they'll do really well. What I think um, Arteta lacks a little bit is a way to change the game when
Yeah,
things are not going. I think his only real throw of dice is bringing on what's his name,
Trossard.
Trossard, yeah, and see
Yeah,
if he does something. And he really doesn't have an alternative to Havertz.
yeah,
If you look at Liverpool, right, you either start Gakpo, uh, or and usually when Gakpo starts, he starts on the left now, and Diaz will go in the middle, or you
yep,
start with the Diaz on the left, and Nunes will go in the middle, or you have Diaz and Salah is like kind of the wide forwards ahead, and then
uh,
you have someone playing like 10. So there's a lot of variations if something like if attackingly it doesn't go as you
yeah,
expect. And I don't think Arsenal are in that position. It has
yeah,
to be either something Saka does, a great cross or an individual goal, or they have to do it in a some other like team way from a
yeah.
corner or from something like
Set piece
set
essentially.
piece or like a cross to Havertz.
Yeah, header.
Otherwise, there's nothing like there's no variety happening,
Yeah, I agree.
which is I think the downside to their play. When something doesn't go, like they collapse.
Yeah. And this is after they scored five goals, and I think YT would probably go against it and say, "Hey, we're scoring goals, we're doing this." But I think against this West Ham side, it's a really good result. But I think the moment when they started, they conceded two or 4-0 up.
Yeah,
They conceded two, which was like it was a punishment of them playing too openly. And I think I agree with you 100%. They can't find that balance because when they play that predictive way, they're very defensive. So once they need to be more creative, they open up and they lose that balance of defense.
yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see what Arsenal does going forward. I do agree that they're going to be your competitors for the title. And
Well,
I
the
think,
thing the thing
yeah,
is, if you're like if you're Arsenal fan and saying no, everything's going well, you're lying to yourself.
yeah,
Because if you say, well, Liverpool are so far ahead, no one could have expected this crazy thing, you're wrong because Liverpool, yes, they're ahead by 9 points at this stage, which has been like the biggest difference. But in terms of best starts, they're still behind the 2019 Liverpool start and the couple of City starts. So
yeah,
in line with like what you should have expected and what City usually does, like above 90 points. So if you're
Yeah,
at Arsenal, you know that you have to do about 90 points to have a chance of winning the league, and you have 2 years to prepare and be like, okay, this is like everything has to come together.
yeah,
So
and
you
it
took
completely
you
also.
took a step back
Yeah,
instead. So now City collapses. Liverpool are still like new coach, so something can happen. But you did not capitalize. You're now 9 points behind, which is a lot to make up, even if Liverpool has a new coach and maybe even if they have a downturn in form. So
yeah,
you
and
have to feel like, well, like this should have been our year, and we just were not ready for it.
yeah, I agree. I agree with. If I wasn't a fan of Arsenal, I would be pissed, and I would really consider Arteta's candidacy at the end of the season. I would really do that because what the hell? Like, yeah, you can't all you discounted Liverpool and you discounted this fact that this is the levels that we need to achieve, and you just thought, well, maybe if we just do what we do and then City just doesn't show up, we're gonna win the league. Well, that's not how real life works. There was a team that already achieved once 90 points. They're just dormant. It's not like Liverpool lost anyone apart from the coach. They still have the
Mm-hmm.
same players, and the players are of quality. I think that's one of the arguments that I think every United fan should understand as well is that if some manager can get the results once in 10 years with the same players doesn't mean that the players are of that level. I think they're overperforming. I think sometimes you need to change the players. But if the players consistently do that and they dip and form down once, it means that they're underperforming, but their quality is here. And you can see it from Liverpool and their squad, which is very well maintained. I think for the game against Arsenal, I also don't see it going any other way other than I don't see. I see it two ways. I see one way that United collapsing as they usually do under new manager,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a wake up call. They had it under Ten Hag, they had it under Ole, and they had it under Mourinho at certain periods of time, which I don't think Arsenal's capable of punishing United that much, like Liverpool's and Cities did to Ole and Ten Hag, or I see it as a very tight game, tactical, drawn out. Maybe one of the teams nicks a goal and wins 1-0. I don't see any other way. I don't see United dominating that is, but it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be an interesting midweek game, and it's gonna be a big shout for the title. To finish off our quick podcast for this week, well, you wanted to touch upon Real Madrid and their failures, and maybe Mbappe and his midweek game.
To be honest, like apart from the Liverpool game, I haven't really watched them. So I don't know. We can, but I'll be talking out of my ass.
Yeah, no, but I think what did you feel like about Mbappe in that game particularly?
Mbappe
Do you
is an
think?
idiot, and we joked last year like, oh, he should go to Arsenal if he really wants to make an
Yeah,
name. But it's true. He even if he goes and wins like 3 Champions League at Real Madrid, been there, done that. There's Ronaldo with 5. Vini already won a couple for them. And Winnie is the guy who's on in his position, so he
yeah.
doesn't really have a position. And Real Madrid fans are notoriously impatient with the results and with their players. Like you have to deliver immediately.
They're already
Oh
done with
yeah,
him, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah, yeah. Okay, fine. They got him on a free, which was they didn't have to pay 100 million, but still, he's a huge signing,
Yep,
and it just the onus is on him to do something that's above and beyond of like what a regular player is expected to do, and there's really no regular players at Real Madrid. So if you looked at his performance versus Liverpool, like he was rattled multiple times.
he
A
looked so bad.
19-year-old Connor Bradley wiped him out with the cleanest tackle,
Yeah,
and you
he
have
also
to
missed a
take a
pen.
look at him, and it's just like um, completely different man from someone who scores a hat trick in a World Cup final.
Yep, I agree.
So I think he's just like making such a terrible career decisions when it comes to club football.
Yeah,
First PSG and now this. There's nothing when I look back at his club career, nothing really stands out apart from his like really cool debut season with Monaco.
yeah. There, that hit the nail in the coffin there. I think nothing really stands out. I think he looked like a dead man walking in the Champions League. He did score against Getafe today, or yesterday. I don't remember
Cool.
what it was, but Mbappe against Getafe.
No, cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like
yeah,
who
cool.
cares?
That's my point. So he's not really struggling in La Liga. He's scoring goals against lower ranked teams, but against Liverpool, he just looked out of it. He just didn't look. He looked a shell of the Mbappe that we've seen before. It's just I think the standout moment for me was when he had the ball. He took too long to sink, and then I think it was Bradley or it was Van Dijk who came from the back and just stole the ball from him and almost led to a goal. Really disappointing. And he's the only one who's fit out of everyone. And you think that you're in Vinny's place and you actually should perform. But Real Madrid just look lost. Yeah, they had a lot of injuries. I think this year is not their year, and it usually is normal after winning the Champions League in the previous year. But I think Mbappe has a mountain to climb. So did Vinny Jr., by the way, when he first joined.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
but
don't
Vini
think.
Jr. joined from straight from Brazil.
Yeah,
Like he was not in European football,
and they
and
also needed a left winger
he was
because
a
Bale.
very and he was very much a development he was like an Endrick.
Yeah,
So if Endrick like 2 years is great, like that's how Vini joined. Pape
yep.
joined as a already accomplished superstar.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see what they'll do. And the only victim with Real Madrid here is poor Ancelotti because the fans are asking for his head already. Although they have a record amount of injuries, they basically don't have two fit center backs, don't have a left back. Cavaminga's playing everywhere. Cavaminga got injured in the Liverpool game, so I really feel for Ancelotti here. But how are they going to solve it? Who's going to solve it? Or Javi Alonso comes in and solves it. That's, I think, a next season problem. I think this season we can definitely write off Mbappe. Maybe Real, and definitely Real Madrid from the Champions League. I don't think with these injuries it can sustain a run, but you never know. But
Well, they're still pretty close to La Liga. Like they're like three
La
points
Liga,
behind or
yes.
4 points behind.
I'm
So
I'm thinking about the Champions League. La Liga doesn't
yeah,
matter. It's Real Madrid or Barcelona. Usually, if it is, I think Barcelona is also losing steam a bit. But I think Flick, it's going to be a more interesting rivalry in La Liga than it is in Europe. I think we can definitely write off Mbappe as having a good season,
yeah.
uh, and maybe writing them off from the Champions League. I think
All
that's
right.
it for us for this week. We'll be back next week with Whitey joining us and potentially crying because United spanked him or celebrating because they're still 9 points behind Liverpool and he thinks they have a chance.
All right. Take your daily vitamins.